And here we are with another bit of low-key detail. This video comes to you in cooperation with PCBWay, ICM, MRP paints and gallery airbrushes. And the amount of time it takes to do the masking is really disproportionate to the actual weight of the effect, the impact that it will have. But at the end of the day it will look awesome, and frankly that's all I care about right now. I'll assume that by now you have already figured out what it is all about with this masking, and I'm very curious to know, so leave a comment if you know what I'm doing or you think you do. I have a few minutes to spare. Have you left your comment? Alright. And for the most enjoyable and entertaining part of this video, let's remove the masking tape. As I have said before, this effect doesn't really have a lot of impact, but in any case I really like how it looks, and to be honest, it's not something you can see every day. Obviously it is quite a lot of masking work. In my opinion, it is worth the effort. Let me know what you think about this. After studying some more images, I have figured that more anti-slip surface is what I need right now, which led to another crazy masking session and the painting of the next batch of anti-slip surface panels. On the other hand, masking tape removal is very therapeutical, so maybe it all cancels each other, and even maybe if all goes as planned, the positives can outweigh the negatives. Who knows? Well, I guess I'll have to admit that it does look better with the extra anti-slip surface. So, all is good. This video is sponsored by PCBWay. Most of you know them for custom PCBs, but they also offer professional 3D printing services. Whether you're after a resin, SLS or even metal parts, PCBWay delivers high precision results perfect for model building or custom tools. For a limited amount of time, PCBWay has a special offer on TPU prints. The bigger the weight, the bigger the discount, which can get to 80% off. So order now. Uploading your design is easy. Just head to their website, choose your material and get an instant quote. No back and forth, no surprises. Now let's start the weathering process with some superficial paint distress using a gray watercolor pencil, just like on the reference images, and maybe slightly exaggerated and expanded in its coverage. Once again, with the chipping, I assume that the edges of openable panels and their surrounding edges are most prone to such weathering, where the paint is chipped either to bare metal or to primer or whatever. Also, of course, higher traffic areas, but in general those two things kinda come together. This technique very neatly outlines those panels that are somewhat frequently used. In my opinion, the pencil should be sharpened quite often so that the marks that are left are very in scale. In essence, not too chunky. I try to be random in regards to the shapes and sizes, and although humans are really not great at randomness, I think it is possible. I covered everything in Winsor & Newton acrylic matte varnish, and now, as you can probably see, the effect is not so stark anymore, which is a good thing because it is still visible, but it doesn't look overdone. And the reason that I chose acrylic matte varnish over, let's say, the lacquer based varnishes is that the lacquer based is too strong and melts pretty much everything from the watercolor pencil chipping. The next task will be to replicate this sort of dirt accumulation, so I'll fire up the airbrush and we'll do it that way. If you recall, for the interior I used Tamiya buff for the dusting, so for the sake of consistency I'm going to start with the same base layer, let's say. The paint is very highly diluted in isopropanol. First I'm going to go over the panel lines and rivet lines. I'm going to make random lines more saturated than others, just to make some sort of an effect. Using the links in the description and the coupon code, you can get 10% discount from your purchase from Gallery Airbrushes. I'm also going to do some dusting on the cheek windows. I think it does not look bad. Now I'm going to do a blending layer with the same paint, just from a higher distance. Now I guess all of you have seen footage of how much dust these things kick when landing in a dusty environment, so that's what we're going to go after. For that reason, we need to address the top surfaces and most of all their corners. On these top surfaces I'm doing things the opposite way than on the bottom. First with a wider base coat, and then I will concentrate on the corners. The glass, well, it has to get dirty too. Now with the cap off, I can concentrate in the corners. We should not forget about the tires. Next up, I'm going to apply a deeper tone of dust that will be concentrated in the corners, inside some of the panel lines and gaps. This works very well with the lighter tone. If there is no lighter tone, it looks more like rust, so that's something that needs to be had in mind. The application is somewhat straightforward, not much to it, but since I'm using enamel based filter, some blending is going to happen, which is actually good because this gives me more control over the final effect. Probably you have seen footage of Blackhawks landing in dusty environment, and you have seen that it becomes just a cloud of dust around the helicopter. So that's why I am being generous with these dusting effects here. Maybe it's not to anybody's taste. Of course, everyone has the right to build and to weather the models as he wants to. Let's not forget about the landing gear. It is in the same environment, so in these cases I think there is not too much rolling where the wheel can be cleaned up, the contact surface of the tire, so I will leave it as per the reference images, dirtier than usual. Well, I have to admit that it does not look particularly beautiful or promising right now, but this is one of those cases where there is a process that should be trusted and the results will come. Now, as far as the blending goes, I have one small brush and one larger flat brush, and I'm using some white spirit. This color is quite potent, so cleaning off the brush is something that needs to be done quite often, because otherwise we're just spreading the paint or the products around without actually doing any good. I'll admit this is a tedious process, but it's going to be worthwhile at the end. In most places I will contain the deeper tone dust within the area that is covered with the lighter tone dust. So we have a gradual looking accumulation. As it turns out, on the transparent parts it is far more easier and comfortable to wipe away the excess with a cotton bud. Of course, you lose the control that you have here on the matte surfaces. It is not that easy to remove the pigment with the cotton bud. It still removes some of the most excessive accumulations, but the blending will continue with a brush. But this will cut the work to at least a half, because we get the most amount of excess easily with the cotton bud, and then it is a matter of fine-tuning, and that's not a bad thing. One of the issues, let's say, with the blending is that you have to wait for the white spirit to evaporate before you can see how much and how good of a job you have done with the blending. These type of Q-tips that have fine pointy tip are very useful as well, especially on the details where we need some more precision. They are tightly packed, as I have said before, so they don't leave as much of the cotton behind, making additional mess. So yeah, they are a bit more expensive, but they do a great job, so well worth their price. And I think that this part of the weathering of the top of the aircraft is complete. Next I will continue with some brown panel line accent color to add some definition to the panel lines and some of the rivets, which will make the dusting not so prominent. It will blend with the rest of the aircraft, so let's do that. And it will add another layer of something interesting on the helicopter. This brown panel line accent color is significantly less stark than what the previously used filter was, so I think this is more suitable for fine details like the rivets, and it will be a nice transition between higher concentration of dust and something less visible. And as I said, I hope and I think that this will blend the two weathering steps together, but let's see how this will go. I would like to thank all the amazing people who support me on Patreon. You guys are awesome! The rotor hub will also be a subject of this weathering step. I don't think that the dust filter is suitable for this area, but this brown panel line accent color is, I think, doing a good job. Frankly, I'm not sure how much dirt is accumulated in this part of the helicopter, but just to be sure that it is not, you know, looking weird and clean amidst all that dirt surrounding it, I will get some in here too. With the wash quirt, I'm going to remove the excess, which is not out, but still some needs to be removed. And I'm going to do this using different sizes and shapes of Q-tips and some white spirit. I am trying to remove the excess only from the area in between the rivet lines. To be honest, the main goal here is kind of to get rid of the tide marks that result from the matte paint absorbing the wash. And probably some better definition of the area between the rivet rows. Now, one thing that I was very close to forgetting are those numbers which are supposed to be applied on the sliding door windows. Now I will apply them and I will do some more weathering that will blend them better with the rest of the airframe. I think it is very beneficial to cut the DACO as close to the actual graphic as possible, because otherwise there is a good chance that the clear film will extend outside of the window. The next step will be to apply some streaking on those areas which are devoid from any or some surface textures, including but not limited to the sliding doors on the back. And this will also weather a little bit the white numbered decals. This effect is very subtle, but that's what we want from it. The rotor blades are another area where I will utilize this method. The underside of the helicopter I will leave less dramatic than the top, for the simple reason that after these videos nobody will ever see this part of the model, but also maybe dust and dirt are having more difficult time to hang upside down. I don't know. So what I will do here is a brown panel line accent color from Tamiya, and then I will add some of the filter effect, but very limited to only a few spots. The next step includes some white spirit, which I will use in conjunction with a fine tip cotton bud to remove the excess wash, and that will be somewhat limited to removing the tide marks which can be found near the rivet rows. As you can imagine, this is not a difficult job, but it is rather time consuming. In the next weathering step, I will apply the darker dust filter, the 1043 tone camo, but instead of using the one from the bottle, I'm going to rejuvenate the one that has already dried from the previous application on the top, and that will happen with some white spirit. Here on the bottom I will be very, let's say, gentle with this. I will not apply too much of it, and I will be somewhat quick in the blending so it doesn't get too difficult. Here the distribution of the effect, I will try to be more random. As I have said previously, this area is not going to be seen after the video, so it's more or less an exercise than something that really will have an effect on the overall appearance of the model. But exercising somewhere that does not matter that much is a very good way to hone your skills without risking too much, so why not? And this is how the final appearance of the bottom is. Now I've tried some moisture effects that I have seen on the images that I have, but I'm not really convinced about those. The main reason is that they actually are visible like moisture effects from certain angles. From others it just looks glossy, maybe because I used gloss varnish. But in any case, this is the bottom, so nobody cares. There is one more weathering step to do, and then we'll go to the assembly. The finishing touch in terms of weathering will be to apply some exhaust stains. For this I'm going to use Tamiya's LP67 Smoke. I have absolutely no idea why Tamiya decided that this color should be glossy. In my opinion it should be matte, but in any case, to reduce the glossiness I'm going to try it with a Mr. Color Rapid Thinner, and if that fails I will just spray some matte varnish over it. This is kind of a dumb exercise on a black aircraft, but it's not going to hurt anybody. No one will notice that it is here, but I guess everyone will notice if I don't apply it, so there we have it. And with the flat varnish over the exhaust stains, I think it is time to end this episode. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, happy modeling, fellas!